Mic check.
And gentlemen, we're about to start in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting for a few more people to get here, but we should be starting in about 5 minutes to go live. We're also going to be broadcasting this on YouTube, so if you want to go ahead and share that on your media channels, that'd be great. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming, taking some time out of your Thursday to come and visit the city of Brownsville's. This is kind of going to be our signature event for our newly developed communications and marketing departments, what we want to call BTX Future. The department officially kicked off in November as I was hired by the mayor and the city manager. My first day was November 18th, and I like to think that I've been taking a running start and trying to catch up with all the great initiatives that the city has to offer. And that's why we're here today, because we were thinking of doing a year-end review, and the task was, Felipe, how are we going to split this up? How are we going to make this engaging and innovative and really stay tuned to the conversations that we're having with the community? And I decided, along with my team, who are so brilliant, and I'd like to give a shout out to them today, is creating BTX Future. And what is BTX Future? For me, it's a recap of all the wins that we had in 2019, and it's a liftoff of all the accomplishments that are yet to come in targeted projects for 2020. And that's why we're here. My name is Felipe Romero, and I am the Communications and Marketing Director for the City of Brownsville, along with my colleagues, or Mr. Mayor, Mr. Trey Mendez, and our City Manager, Mr. Noel Bernal. Thank you so much for coming. And I want to start this panel discussion with giving you a quick teaser of what BTX Future is all about. So the teaser video is really a bunch of shots of what literally Brownsville is what defines Brownsville, the passion, what I like to see since I first got here. I'm actually born and raised in Laredo, Texas, and from there I traveled on IH-35 to San Antonio. I took a semester at UTSA, and then kept traveling up IH-35 all the way and ended up in Austin, where I covered media for the NBC and KGNS affiliate, and I also was blessed enough to cover sports for the Longhorn Network, and then I ventured off to do media and communications for Austin Community College, and then the City of Austin, and then my final position before I came to the beautiful city of Brownsville was with the Austin Independent School District. And here we are today. I feel so privileged to have this opportunity to really follow the footsteps of these successful gentlemen and creating what the mindset and the skill set and the heart set really of what our municipality is all about and what we're pushing towards, which really is creating a culture of inspirational leadership. And I'd like to start off this panel with first giving, I think they can give better introductions than I ever will. Rather than reading off a paper, I really want to get them to talk about, open up and talk about themselves. And would you like to start off, Mr. Mayor, and
Sure.
give a brief introduction on your background and how you got to this point?
Sure, absolutely. Is the mic live? Okay. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. I was going to say good morning, but good afternoon. My name is Trey Mendez, and for the last 7 months or so, I've had the privilege of serving as the mayor for the city of Brownsville. Something I never, ever thought would actually happen. If you would have asked me a while back, I was born and raised in Brownsville, went to public schools. I had the honor of going to Canales Elementary for a couple years, right down the street from my grandparents' house on Roosevelt Street. And then I I guess they decided that I was a little advanced for my grade, because when I was in school, when I was in kinder, they put me with the third graders, and then when I was in first grade, they put me with the fourth graders. But I went to Morningside Elementary after that, and finished there through sixth grade. Then I went to Central Junior High, which doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if anybody remembers Central. It's the Central Administrative Building now. I see Art laughing back there. I guess he does.
What was the mascot?
Rams.
The Rams.
Rams.
Go Rams.
Yeah. And then after that, I went to the high school technology. It was a magnet school at Porter. So graduated from there, then went to our local community college and university, and then went to University of Texas Law School, where I was for 3 years. Then decided I was going to come back to Brownsville and really try and make a difference in my community, or at least really come back with a focus on trying to be the best person I could and really trying to make my community better any way possible. So I've been practicing law in Brownsville since 2005. Not so much really the last 7 months, but trying my best to. And have my own law firm, Mendez Law Firm. It's on St. Charles. And like I said, I didn't really ever think I'd be sitting here as your mayor. My first goal when I came back was start my law practice, develop my practice, and be the best attorney I could be. And in 2010, I decided I was going to run for the Board of Trustees at Texas Southmost College, which I did successfully, and I was reelected in 2016. And go Scorpions, for anybody that's here for TSC. And during my time there, it was really kind of an eye-opening experience, really realizing the value of education and realizing how bright our future really was as long as we gave them an opportunity and really laid the foundation for their success. And I'm proud to say during those 9 years that I was at Texas Southmost College, we lowered the tuition 2 times. And we didn't raise taxes, and we were at an all-time high enrollment when I left. So those are accomplishments I'm really proud of. And that fiscal responsibility and that really eye on the tax monies and being efficient and really taking people into consideration is I feel some of the values that I bring as mayor. So when I ran for mayor, I decided that I was going to do it probably about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, last November, I believe. And really felt that the city needed to change, needed a fresh perspective, needed a new skill set, and somebody that was going to put the city first ahead of anything else, and really be visible, be active, be proactive, be progressive, and be somebody that was going to be visible and kind of lead by example. And I feel that over the last 7 months, I don't know where they've gone. I'm fortunate to be with a really good team. Noel's been fantastic. Since Felipe joined us in November, we've kind of taken another level, different step on the accelerator, for sure. I think we're moving at a pace in Brownsville that nobody's seen. We're moving so fast that sometimes I feel like I need to stop by the side of the road and get a glass of water. But it really is exciting. Thank you, sir. That was planned. It really is exciting to be a part of this and to be a part of Brownsville right now. I feel that there's been no better time to be mayor. All the pieces are falling into place, and I feel like the energy's there, the team is there, the mindset's there, and the only thing I wish I had more of was time. More time in the day to do everything we want to do, but we're going to get there, and I'm proud to say over the last several months we've done more than I ever actually would have thought, and I'm super excited about being here.
Now, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I think I want to be RJ Mitty. No, actually, well, I don't think I've grown up yet. I'm still waiting for that growth spurt. But when I grow up, let's see, what do I want to do? I think I want to be city manager.
Oh, really? All right. And if you were, start with a blank chart, and I would ask you, tomorrow you're going to be a salesman. You're going to start your own business, and you're going to sell something. What would you sell?
Wow, that's a good one. I think I could sell just about anything.
Widgets?
No, I don't think. No, not widgets. Let's see. I think I'd sell Neapolitan-style pizza downtown.
Okay. All
No,
right.
I think what would pique my interest, I think, is I think sales is great. I think it'd be fun to sell anything, but I'd want to sell something that means something to the community, that can actually change people for the better, change communities for the better. So that's a good question. I have to think about that one.
All right. Mr. Bernardo, you want to give us a brief
Sure.
introduction?
Yes, and I'll make it brief. Thank you for being here. It is my pleasure to spend some time with the community, with the variety of stakeholders, the media. It's so important for us to be here and have these dialogues, these conversations. I feel that what we're doing with Friday with the Cities, the State of the Cities, and this event, it's a continued conversation that we want to keep going. So I really appreciate you all having an interest in Brownsville, really being here to hear us out and understand really what's happening within the city that's driving what the outside sees. Because I always feel that the outside perspective is one thing, but it's what is the inner workings of Brownsville have going on. So we'll talk about that. Just a little bit about me. I've been here just over a year. I began on December 3rd, 2018. 2020 marks the 10th year of me being in city management. And it's been quite the ride. I pinch myself every now and then. I call it a career hot streak that I've been on. And it's been a very intentional hot streak. It's been kind of one opportunity led to the other, but it's been a very deliberate path, all with the vision of, at some point, believe it or not, coming back to the Valley and serving in a community where I could add the most value and help move the region forward while serving a community that had the complexities and the challenges of a large city. That has always been a goal of mine. But just a bit of my background, I'm born in Westlaco, wasn't really raised in the Valley. I'm the son of migrant parents, so Brownsville I know has a lot of migrant families still, so I can connect with the community at that level. We were nomads. We were continuously moving back and forth. Before I was even born, my parents had to work for years in Tennessee and Ohio until they settled in Michigan, Southwest Michigan, and that's where I spent most of my years, from kindergarten up to about middle school. We then went to Florida, and then finally in high school, as part of my parents' long-term plan to be back in the Valley for permanently, I moved down here, and I stayed back. I stayed back because while the itch and the urge for most students of the Valley was to leave the region, mine was to just get around McAllen, Edinburgh, and kind of know these communities, because I didn't have a car in high school. I didn't really go out and get around much, so to me the Valley was still new. The fondest memory I have of Brownsville is I vaguely remember when I was a kid, my parents bringing us to the zoo during one of those 2 to 3 month periods that we'd come down to the Valley. So for me, because of my migrant background, I saw a lot of interesting things. I had to help my mom. I had to help interpret her paying bills and doing some of the basic services. What it created in me is, I think, is a level of maturity and responsibility that the typical child doesn't always experience. She didn't know English well, and so she lived through. We had a lot of struggles in that regard. My dad was always working, and we had to be there for her. And so did my older brothers and siblings and stuff like that. But to me, what it created in me was a desire to add value to people, to serve, to help others. And I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to be an immigration attorney. And that kind of changed when I met a professor as I was earning my undergraduate degree in political science when I learned about city management. He kind of sold it in a way where it added a lot of intrigue and challenge to me. It sounded like something that never gets dull, and believe me, every day in the life of a city manager, there's never a boring moment. In case you wonder whether that was true. So anyhow, I was able to connect the dots of serving others, helping others. You don't have a better platform to do that than public service. And city managers have that tremendous opportunity to impact entire communities at one time. Think about Brownsville. You have almost 200,000 people that you get to impact each and every day, and for years to come. I might not be here in 5 years. The mayor might not be here in 5 years. Felipe may not be here in 5 years, but Brownsville will be here for decades to come. So we need to be very, very aware and cognizant of how we make decisions and how we set the path forward and how we seek to make the community better. So anyhow, my formative experiences really molded me into living a life of service and value to others and putting others first and me second. I've been the beneficiary of a lot of great teachers and mentors and loving parents, and I think all of that gave me the confidence to jump into the world headlong, taking on different challenges at different points in my career that allowed me to gain certain experiences to then bring that all back to Brownsville. So I took a very long path, basically, to get all the way to North Texas and back, and really find that where I am in my career and what my experiences have afforded me really align well with where Brownsville is and where Brownsville was seeking to go. So I'm very excited to be here.
And I'll ask the same questions. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I would want to be a professional baseball player if I could. I actually had the option to have, long story, but I had the option to almost play with UTB back when I was in high school, after high school. But I left all those kind of other dreams aside. But if I could, I would be a baseball player. That's my I love baseball. I love watching it. I don't play it much anymore. I'm out of shape. If I throw a ball, my arm will fall off, I feel. But anyway, that's my dream.
Okay, and same question. If you were, tomorrow, start completely over, you're going to be a businessman, what would you be selling?
What would I be selling? I would be selling books. I really would. And I once read this book that talked about a very well-known leadership guru out there. And when he decided to publish books, he said, why would you ever write? And his message was because it would give you a better platform to influence, because you're going to be able to touch people that you're never going to meet. And I think books to me would be something I would write, because I'm only going to have, life is short. I'm only going to have the ability to meet so many people, work with so many people, and add value to so many people's lives. But if you wrote books, it's infinite, the number of people who could one day get their hands on a book. So,
I smile and laugh a little bit because we, every morning we have our 7 a.m. Book, kind of short book description. Like, have you read this book? I'm like, yeah, but have you read this one? So it was always a great interaction. We're still, I'm still on the mindset. I really like to hold the physical book and have it, the smell and the paper. So
you're not going to get an actual year in review book, but you still like books.
Yes. So now let's start our conversation in this panel discussion. And again, it's really to highlight, kind of give a recap of the most important things that really that were felt throughout the year. I also invite again the media, the community, and our YouTube watchers that all the information is available on btxfuture.com, where you can get basically a recap of 2019 and where we're lifting off in 2020. So I'll start off with you, Mr. Mayor. Why is building a participatory culture so crucial to any organization?
Well, I think before I get into that, I just want to tell everybody, in case you don't know, these two guys get to the office by like 6 o'clock every morning at the latest. And they have this friendly competition. They've been trying to one-up each other, not just in books, but to see who gets to the office first. I think they're probably up to like 4:30 in the morning now.
True story.
It's going to keep going. But as far as participatory culture, I think it's really important to get buy-in, right? So buy-in is really, when you're trying to build a culture, you need buy-in. You need a sense of buy-in, but you also need to lead, right? So without the right leadership, you're not going to get that buy-in. So I think it's really important to build that culture, because one person alone or one person acting alone can only do so much. But if you have hundreds behind you, and for the case of the city of Brownsville, there's, I think, 1,200 employees,
Right.
depending.
Plus full-time.
Right.
Yeah.
About 1,200 employees. So an army of 1,200 is a lot stronger than an army of a few. And I think that's one of the things that Noel's done so well, is he's worked over the last year plus on building this culture and building what I'll let him elaborate more on, but it's called total alignment, right? So it's this culture. And you kind of see culture building across different avenues, right? I'm a Cubs fan, so when Noel said he wanted to be a baseball player, I actually always wanted to be a baseball player myself, but I want to play for the Cubs. But being a Cubs fan, they changed administration years ago, and they totally redid the culture from the bottom up, and they called it the Cubs way. They even have books on it, right? So when Theo Epstein, who's the general manager of the Cubs, took over in, I think, 2011, 2012, he started this culture and a culture change overall through the minor leagues up to the major leagues. Well, in 2016, for the first time in 108 years, I believe, the Cubs won the World Series. And I think that is an example of culture and what culture can do and what buy-in can do across all levels. And I see that happening with the city. And I think that as mayor, my role is to try and set the vision and try and help support the city manager build a team. So during the time I've been here, he's added several people and several players to that team. And like I said earlier, I feel like all the pieces are in place. Sure, there's maybe a couple places where we could add, and that's going to come as we get more money into our coffers. But I think with the team we have now, I have no doubt that there's buy-in, there's culture change, and not just since Noel's been here, but I felt that once we got the new commission on board, Commissioner Golonsky's here as well. I feel that the new commission has kind of stepped it up and really helped back the administration up on the culture, and also really showed that we're there to do the work as well. We had a meeting several months ago when we were going to start to talk about codes. And one thing I told the department, I said, look, I know it's going to be a lot of work. We're going to rewrite our codes. We're going to do a total redo of the codes. It's going to take about a year. And it's going to be a lot of work for all of you. And I know that you're not looking forward to being at the office longer, but I'm going to be right there with you. And I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do as mayor to help you do that. So I feel like the culture and the team building is there, and I'm just glad to be a part of it, really.
All right.
Yeah, so just before I answer the question, you are not at a seminar, you are not at a conference, you are not in a webinar or a TED Talk, but here it is, culture. And many times you have to go to that to hear about culture. What is culture? What is it about? I've been very, very adamant and very intentional, very deliberate, and even when I interviewed, I told the commission one of my priorities is the culture. Culture is a function of leadership, and when you look at an organization, you can look at all the good, all the bad, anything in between, all the inner workings, and that's what I was alluding to in my previous comment. What we accomplish, the results we get, the results we reach, the milestones we reach, the improvements we make, who does it? An organization is made up of people. Yes, we happen to use equipment, we happen to use machines, we happen to use technology, computers. Those are just things that we use to help us do our job, but the people who do the job are the staff. Any organization, so City of Brownsville as a municipal corporation, we're not a private corporation that creates profit, we provide a service. But much like the private sector needs people to generate that profit and make the sales and get the contracts and be efficient and reach quality initiatives, we are no different. In fact, 60%, 60 to 70% of most cities, human resources is their greatest expense. You can call it an expense or you can see it as an investment, because that's human capital. And human capital is another word that's now being talked about a lot more out. It's like a buzzword, but more and more people are finding out that culture, more CEOs are coming out. Many do it when they retire. Many do it when they resign or get fired. Many do it when they want to, they reach their older age and they write a book looking back about what led to the greatness of Southwest Airlines, Microsoft, all these different things. But it's basically they found the sweet spot of what was their success really about. And my belief is not simply, but it's that if the culture is not right, the performance is not going to be there. If you want any kind of result, you have to kind of work backward from there and make sure that you look at the inner workings of the organization. Many people don't like to talk about it. Maybe they pretend it's not there. You all are professionals in your own right and have your own experiences in a work environment. But culture is the personality of an organization. How does it function on the inside? How it works on the inside is manifested in what gets accomplished, what gets done. So the thinking, the attitude, the mindsets, the behaviors, right? So if you have an unhealthy culture, toxic behavior, just a quick example, it's going to get in the way of the results. And the thing is, culture is something that can be shaped. And many times, people just don't talk about it. Just kind of leave it alone. Just put it to the side. And in reality, culture, we talk about innovation, for example. We talk about collaboration. The commission has talked to us about being more responsive. Well, sense of urgency is an aspect of an organization. What is the rhythm of how things get done here? Well, if the expectation is that everything can be done tomorrow versus certain things should be done sooner than later, that's a cultural aspect of an organization. If you want to be proactive versus being reactive, that is a way of thinking. So anyhow, our culture has been one that we've been using as our method of making sure that we accomplish the goals of our community, the goals of the commission, and the goals of the city manager's office, because we're here to support our staff so they can do great work. One of the things about culture, so innovation, ideas don't have a hierarchy. A good idea can come from anywhere. So why would we, a frontline employee who is always at the park, who's always working with streets, who's always working with drainage, may see patterns, may have suggestions for how to improve something, but if you don't have an opportunity to engage with them, you're never going to find out what that improvement can be. And that is a matter of culture, because if the culture is, well, all the best ideas are with those that are at the top, well, you're going to miss all these other ideas that are at other places in the organization. We have varying levels of experience, varying levels of knowledge, varying levels of expertise and talent. And if you can't collectively put that together and make it work for the collective good of the community, you're not going to reach the high levels of performance. So that's why culture has been so important to us.
So, Mr. Bernal, in 2019, you in talking about the culture, you also did a revamp of the organizational structure of the entire municipality. Can you talk a little bit about the new divisions that you created and how that impacted? And then I would like to follow up with you, Mr. Mayor, on what you've seen, because you're the pulse in the community. How has the community reacted to the new structures?
Yes, so first of all, it's why we're here today. We're here today because we have a communications and marketing department that now has a strategy to get out into the community and be more proactive and start to tell our story a lot more. So that's why we're here. If we didn't have Felipe and communications and marketing brainstorming these types of events, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have the way to connect and communicate with the community. So when I was hired here, there was a brochure that was created by the recruitment firm based on feedback from the city commission. So in there was a section of challenges and opportunities. One of those was storytelling, proactive communication. One of those was helping combat the perception of crime and safety in Brownsville. One of those was having a better vision, a collective vision. Also, you had planning and permitting issues and being more business friendly. You had a variety of things. Well, if you don't have the structure of the organization aligned to realize those goals, you're going to have a very difficult time to get there. So what we began to look at is growth and development was a big issue. Infrastructure was a big issue, streets and drainage and bike paths and sidewalks. So what we looked at is, are there things that we can be doing more efficiently, more strategically, and that we need to be fixing so that we could, over time, reach the goals of the organization. So some of the ones that I'll talk about real quick would be internal services. Internal. There were certain things happening within the organization that was taken away from the core mission and function of certain departments. For example, our fleet and our facilities were being managed in a decentralized way. Well, if everybody is in the facilities business, if everybody is in the fleet business, then if you're a parks director, how much time will be taken from worrying about parks and thinking about park stuff because you're worried about the maintenance to your building, or if you're going to get that truck replaced next year or in 2 years, why should they be worrying about that when, for an organization our size, there is an efficiency when you begin to consolidate the management of certain functions. So that was a big win because it's taking a lot of time away from our department directors and our staffs who don't have to lose sleep over things like facilities and fleet. And then our call center, 546 Help, was also consolidated. That matters. Multimodal, we have basically begun to focus on things like bike paths a lot more as a community. We have the largest transit system, and then we've become a part of the regional MPO. So we have had a mindset of thinking more holistically about how we manage transportation and mobility. So we were becoming more multimodal in nature, but we weren't doing that in practice. So multimodal was born out of the idea that we needed to focus and integrate these functions that complemented each other, but were being done in silos. That's another avenue. And just real quick, I'll mention enterprise applications. So we had a management information system. So our technology was also not being looked at as a source of accomplishing better service delivery internally and out in the community. So one of the things that we ended up doing is bringing technology into the 21st century by saying one of the boxes that we need to create is before we do things that are more traditional, for example, always hiring somebody. Is the answer always hiring somebody, or is there a software, an application, or a technology offering that can help us accomplish the same work, perhaps even for the entire organization, that we're missing because we're not giving technology the right attention as in terms of how we do things throughout the organization. So we ended up having to create a structure that really complemented and helped further the vision of the commission, of the community. As we've heard, I also had my first 100 days, I interviewed over 50 people based on the commission's advice on who I should talk to, and it was going back into the organization and saying, putting the people in the right places, as the mayor mentioned, bringing in the right people to lead these areas, but also making sure that the areas are well structured so that we don't get in our own way because people aren't collaborating and it's not working as seamlessly as we should be working.
Would you like to add something,
Sure.
Mr. Mendez?
I thought I was the biggest nerd on stage. Wow. Good job. Okay, so really, I think one of the great things about Noel is he keeps the commission pretty well informed as to what it is he's going to do and what he's planning to do. And I remember when he was discussing, he didn't want to call. I remember he didn't want to call it restructuring. He called it, and for somebody that mentions buzzwords, he was calling it new structuring, right?
Right.
Which is true, because that's the way you need to look at it. Because it really wasn't anything negative. It was something that was going to be positive and something that was really creating new efficiencies within our city. And I think you took a real good diagnosis of the city departments and where we could find some more efficiencies and where we could get some more wins, and maybe people that were in one department could be better suited for another department. I know that there was some people that some of our team that are in different roles now, which they've taken to and they're doing fantastic. So I think Noah's been really good at identifying talent and really empowering our city employees to harness those abilities that they have and the skill sets that they have. And as mayor, I appreciate him, kind of giving us a heads up and letting us know what it was he was thinking. But overall, I really think that it's been fantastic for the city. It's been super efficient, and we're doing as much as we possibly can with what we have. And we're trying to find more sources of revenue. We're trying to find different ways to build our city and different ways to run it like a business. And one thing that Felipe, that you asked me, was the pulse of the community. What I'm feeling out there is there's a lot of positive energy. People are really happy with the way the city is being run. They feel that there's no personal agendas. They feel that it's really taken on a very positive direction, and that people are free to express their opinions. We're streamlining operations. We're being more innovative. We're being more digital. We're moving into technology that we should have moved into a long time ago. But overall, everything from the community has been positive. Sure, I get certain inquiries about trash, drainage, street paving, but that's understandable because the taxpayer pays for these services. They expect to get them, and we're going to provide them. The only thing is there's so much to do, and it's just a matter of prioritizing. So that really, I would say, is probably the only, not even negative, but the only real criticism that I get out there is people wish that their street could get done, and I just try to explain to them, look, there's a lot of streets that need to get done. We're going to get to yours. Just give us a little bit of time. We're trying to prioritize everything and really trying to come up with a plan on doing that. But overall, I feel like the community's really taken to the administration and the commission and really have a sense of pride in our city.
So I'd like to also add in 2019, downtown revitalization and redevelopment was a major focus. Can you add to that? And I know
Sure.
it was part of your campaign
Right.
on the initiatives and what we've done in 2019 and what we're moving forward with in 2020.
Sure. Downtown certainly is something that's been in the forefront of my campaign, kind of my goals. And the reason for that is just because we have such a unique and historic downtown. Our downtown, we have the second most historic city in Texas. You see other cities that have our historical infrastructure and they do so much with it and they've appreciated it. They've done such a good job of preserving it. And we were behind on that. but I think we've had 30 new businesses open over the last couple of years. You're starting to see, I would say, almost like an incubator for unique businesses, for younger entrepreneurs, for people that may not necessarily be able to afford rents in different parts of the city, that have a unique idea that they're able to do downtown rather than other parts of the city. It's really taken on a really unique feel, and it's a really good vibe. But more than anything, adaptive reuse is something that's proven time and again to be an economic driver. You can not only save money by reusing a building that's already been built, but it's less of an impact on the environment. And there's been studies done also that people prefer a mix of old and new buildings. And it's more conducive to small business to be in an area with smaller spaces in a historic area. I could give you studies on that. But it's really, I saw it as an economic development tool and something that had kind of been neglected for a long time and something that made us unique. So when I was thinking about how can we reinvent Brownsville, or how can we really focus on bringing Brownsville to another level and really making us a destination city, I felt we needed to capitalize on the things that make us unique. And our downtown is one of those things that makes us unique. So I'm proud to say that with all the new businesses that are opening, I'm seeing a lot more investment. There's some high dollar investment that's going to be happening over the course of the next several months. We've seen the plans on that. There's some developers that have done some big projects throughout the city in different areas that are proven, that know what they're doing, that are going to have a good design, that have good ideas that they're going to bring to downtown that are needed. I think you're going to start to see the next wave of development is going to be mixed use and in urban living, because you have young professionals and other people that want to live downtown now, that want an area that's walkable where they don't have to maybe even drive a car as much as they would typically do. But I'd say it's been reborn, and I'm just, yes, it's a part of my agenda, but not just because I have a business down there, but just because I saw that as kind of like a low-hanging fruit to really drive the economy of our city, because it's been proven in other cities that have done the same thing.
Mr. Bernal, would you like to add to that?
Sure. So downtown is an asset that Brownsville has that many other cities can't say they have. I'll tell you that one of the things I tell members of the community who ask me about my vision for downtown is there are many cities that wish they had a downtown. In fact, they wish so much that they make that wish a reality, and they actually create their own downtowns. I actually came to the prior community where I served. They had an area called Old Town, which they invested over, I believe, $200 million in total, and it was in phases, to create a downtown, an artificial downtown. It has the makings and the feel of a downtown that's dense, walkable, row houses, the architectural, because you can design you can build your own city. Just go ask Walt Disney. They rebuilt Kissimmee, Florida in Orlando. Why? Because people didn't want to live. They liked the houses, but they didn't want to go back to Kissimmee. They wanted to be in Orlando, so they just built the houses in Orlando. But basically, downtown has, for me, it's the heartbeat of a city. Interestingly, what happened with downtowns, and the mayor made the point about mixed use having a resurgence in the urban living, it's called new urbanism, but it's taken the planning world over 50 years to find out what development patterns make the most financial sense. Downtowns were built in an era over 100 years ago where the grid system and the density of the vehicles and all that, it was more walkable, but back in 2008, for example, during the recession, the areas that did the best were the ones that were denser, more walkable, and the suburban pattern, that's what happened to downtowns. Post-World War II, just a quick lesson here, the suburban effect took away from downtowns. The concept of suburban living, it was a tug of war, and it sucked the core out of many cities. Interestingly, in Brownsville, you kind of see that here, and we're just one city. You typically see that in an urban area where you have the core city, and then you have the sprawl out of the core, and it takes the wealth out of the core. Well, in Brownsville, the same things happen, but all in one city, because we're so huge, 150 square miles. You see the kind of Ruben Torres North pattern and the Ruben Torres South. And as you go to downtown, it becomes more walkable, more dense. Well, again, we've figured out that we already have infrastructure in place. That's what cities are figuring out. You already have water lines, sewer lines, basic core infrastructure. You have a lot of square footage. the market is what the market is. Not everybody wants to live in a downtown, but downtowns are an asset. And if you have it, you want to preserve it, you want to redevelop it, and it doesn't cost the city much more in terms of infrastructure and services to support downtown. It's already built, it's already there. You may have to help offset other costs like fire suppression systems and other things to bring them up to code, but that's pennies on the dollar versus having to build a brand new road, brand new drainage, brand new water and sewer line for a whole new development. So there's a balancing. So again, it makes financial sense, but we also have a tremendous historical gem in our downtown. So the fact that we have it, it really, we should preserve it.
Now, you didn't ask, but I'm going to go ahead and share because
we could ask questions.
what I wanted to be when I grow up is actually be an astronaut, which I was kind of lazy in high school. I didn't want to do the whole math thing, and because apparently you need math. So I think I focused on my other asset, which was talking, and but it's why I'm here today. Actually, it was one of the when I was looking at the brochure.
I knew this was a segue.
It was a really exciting point of like I get to be in Texas, which is I've been fortunate to travel across the United States, and I'm a Texas forever type of guy, and I get to stay in Texas, be close to the border, by the sea, and also add the beyond part. Can we talk about a little bit about all the things that we're doing in terms of with a new airport terminal, with SpaceX, with New Space? I mean, this is really some innovative stuff and really something that we can allure some top talent and also connect with our millennials and younger community that's also here today. Let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, I think probably the most exciting project that's going to be coming online this year is going to be our new airport terminal. You're talking about a 90,000 square foot facility. It's going to double our capacity. We're working on a new airline, so that'll be exciting if that occurs. Just having that airport is gonna change the whole entire mindset of people that are coming to Brownsville and what they feel that Brownsville brings. And it's going to be state-of-the-art airport. You look at the design; it's a different design. It's really innovative, high-tech. It's got all sorts of different, really like all the bells and whistles, like they say. And I believe we're also one of the first places, not the first places, doing some technology with some of the federal government as well.
Right.
But SpaceX for me, I think anything Elon Musk touches automatically becomes cool. He's kind of like the real life Tony Stark, right? So having Elon Musk in our backyard, literally, is something that I knew was going to put Brownsville in an entirely different conversation when it came to the world economy. So I think that having SpaceX here at the very least puts us in the conversation for innovation technology. And I think the real effect from that is going to be the other companies that come because of that, and the conversations and the leads that we're going to get because of that. So we've already seen it. And like you mentioned, Felipe, new space, the commercialization of space is something that we're really looking at as trying to create a hub of innovation for Brownsville and trying to harness businesses that deal in new space. And new space really is anything that deals with space technology that isn't really launching rockets into the air, right? So that could be security, satellites, internet, anything that really has some sort of orbit in space or that deals with space, whether that's component manufacturing or other things. But it creates so many opportunities for us that it's definitely, we felt the effect, and I think we're going to continue to feel that effect going forward.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like I said, I mean, anytime you can say SpaceX is here, there's only 2 or 3 communities in the U.S. that can say that. You're looking at Hawthorne, Cape Canaveral, and Brownsville. And I just wish they'd start using hashtag SpaceX Brownsville, not SpaceX Boca Chica, right? Yeah. So Elon, if you're out there listening, it's SpaceX Brownsville. I'm going to start using that hashtag. But it's really, it's something that we're trying to do, and we're trying to keep as much young talent as we possibly can in Brownsville. And having SpaceX is a huge stride towards achieving that, but other things too, having opportunities in business and having more innovation technology, and we'll probably talk about the digital divide and fiber and all that later, but just trying to build the infrastructure for people to create businesses here.
Mr. Brown?
So the rat card, I think, would do a much better job than what I probably missed something. But the RAT card really touches on just the variety of things. If you look back at 2019, one of the things that I cringe at is there was a lot of major things that were done, and it's how do you sustain that? How do you manage expectations? Because really there's a lot of things that are significant on here that in the time that we did them, I could speak to the TERS alone. The TERS was done in about 3 to 4 months. It's not very common that be done in 3 to 4 months. But for me, when I look at the RAT card, the thing that's notably not here, the mayor just mentioned that, is the issue of the broadband initiative. So the issue of the digital divide and the high levels of disconnection that we have in our community, to me, is a major need that we need to focus on and can. Similar to how we talk about diabetes and health and the trails, this is right up there with that. That is a threat to our community in the same way that us not being a part of the digital economy and the 21st century gig economy is to us. So one of the things that we're doing is we're working with our community stakeholders, and there's a task force together. We're partnering with the Federal Reserve to do a feasibility study on how the city could potentially enter and help provide what the private sector is not providing, and that is more internet connectivity at higher speeds for our community. That could be a game changer. The future, the spine, the backbone, the foundation for the future is based on technology and science. And if we don't have those levels of connectivity and that infrastructure that is just as important as a water line is today, as a power line is, fiber is right up there. And communities that have been in situations like Brownsville that do take that initiative have moved themselves decades ahead and have ensured the future success of their community. If we want to exist, and not just exist, but be vibrant and successful, technology and technology infrastructure needs to be a part of that. One of the things that we're also facing as a city is the more that other industries digitize and automate and incorporate technology, the more that we as a city are going to be expected to do the same from our citizens. So because your cell phone provider, because your cable provider, because your home provider, insurance provider can do certain things that we cannot do, we're going to start to be looked at as substandard in service. Because they can offer you 2-minute responses, X app, on and on and on. If the city can't do that, or if we're not providing that, you're going to be outdated. One of the things, for example, meters, I worked in a project recently on digital water meters. The response from the community was tremendous because they were able to better manage a very precious resource, which is water. Technology can help you manage your water usage and all these different things in a much better fashion. You know, here we would want to someday, not too far in the future, be able to offer those type of service delivery improvements, but we need to have a basic infrastructure in place, and that's where fiber comes in. I really think that a whole lot of layers can rest upon just fiber alone. So that's going to be a very interesting initiative for us this next year.
Now, the news media plays such an essential part in really a city or municipality, rather, telling their story. You know, with information being available at a click of a button, you can Google it, you can Facebook it. But what is the city's role in being able to, you know, again, thank you for the media to coming to this event. What is the city's role in ensuring that we build those relationships and ensure that we're transparent in the way we do things?
Well, I think there's a philosophical twist to this. I have colleagues that shy away from the media and rather be, you know, just living under a rock somewhere. But in our day and age, if you don't take a proactive approach, you're just giving permission for somebody else to tell your story and fill in the blank. And there's going to be a huge vacuum, and you become vulnerable. I think a community in our day and age, the fabric of community is so important, and you have to build trust, you have to build transparency, you have to create a relationship with the community. What used to be, and it still happens, I'm not saying it shouldn't happen, but what used to be the neighborhood gathering, the handshakes, is now a neighborhood blog or a neighborhood forum on Nextdoor. The sense of community has shifted to a whole different arena. And if the city doesn't feel that it's important to connect at that level, you're leaving a huge vacuum that somebody's going to fill for you. You know, in our community, for example, we have, you know, blogs and things like that. I don't think that's a negative thing. To me, it's an expression of there's continuous communication back and forth, but the city should have a role in always putting out information proactively and correctly. And if you don't do that, somebody's going to fill in the blank. It's just that simple. So it's just a matter of communication is a medium, it's a tool. Governance, a democracy can't function in darkness, there's a saying. If you don't have transparency and communication and dialogue, then anybody can assume what they want to assume. So I think the city has a responsibility to be proactive and to be communicating with the community.
Mayor Mendez?
Yeah, I think the media is extremely important. And I come from a journalism background. I was actually a journalist in college, so I have that background. I appreciate anybody that can tell the news, in a factual way. And really, it's something that's necessary in our community, in this world. You need to have people that are out there telling the news, regardless of what it is. So I've always believed that it's good to be out there telling the community, engaging the community, and telling them what's going on. But I also feel that one of the most valuable benefits of the press and of the media is holding people accountable. And you can hold me accountable all day long, and I will hold myself accountable. So I've never shied away from press, I've never shied away from the media, because I feel that being open and accessible is a good thing. Telling the story of Brownsville is a good thing. And you know, I want to hear from the community, and sometimes the hard questions are the ones I prefer, because I'm not here to hide. I'm here to promote the city, and I'm here to you know, to tell the story of what it is that we're doing.
Para nuestra comunidad hispana de aquí de Brownsville que habla español, quiero comunicarme con ellos también. Tenemos una ciudad con un promedio de 29 años de edad. Es una ciudad joven. Tenemos ya medios digitales, plataformas donde los jóvenes se están levantando y también se están colaborando con la ciudad, con el municipio y diciendo ellas las historias de la ciudad. Qué importante también es para la ciudad de Brownsville, como ustedes también, conectar con la comunidad de jóvenes profesionistas.
¿Jóvenes? Entonces, la cuestión de comunicación es importante, no nada más para jóvenes, pero en general. Es importante tener un diálogo con la comunidad. El gobierno existe para la gente, por la gente. Es un sistema de gobierno que en nuestro país, en nuestra comunidad, gobierno local, estamos hablando de gobierno local. A veces sentimos hoy en día que estamos desconectados, o quizás que el gobierno federal no expresa el deseo de la gente, por ejemplo. Eso es un sentir que existe a veces. Igualmente con el Estado, hay un sentir que el Estado y las decisiones de los legisladores del Estado a veces no conectan con los deseos de la comunidad. En una ciudad, ese sentir no debe de existir al nivel que existe o puede existir con los niveles de gobierno más altos. ¿Por qué? Porque estamos mucho más accesibles a la comunidad. Y la comunidad tiene la responsabilidad de crear más avenidas de comunicación y medios de comunicación para poder ser transparente, para poder proyectar la información que a un ciudadano le importa y tiene deber de saber, ya sea finanzas, ya sea cómo estamos haciendo con con el crimen o cosas así, cuáles son los proyectos. Entonces, la filosofía quizás que ahora la ciudad tiene es que es importante mantener una comunicación positiva, y a veces, aunque hayan situaciones cuando una situación no sea posiblemente tan positiva, se tiene que dar una contestación, una respuesta, y para que la comunidad conozca lo que es la realidad de la situación. Y ese es el compromiso que hoy tenemos con la comunidad.
Ya me enteré lo que pasó. Esos dos chavos se juntaron a las 5 de la mañana y practicaron las preguntas y las respuestas, ¿verdad? Pero como alcalde de Brownsville, para mí, yo creo que una de las cosas más importantes es que los jóvenes se queden en esta comunidad, y que los jóvenes creen en lo que es que estamos haciendo como gobierno y que más que nada que ellos sienten que son parte de la comunidad y que ellos son el futuro. Y tienen que creer eso porque todo lo que estamos haciendo nosotros, la infraestructura que estamos creando aquí en Brownsville y todo el trabajo que estamos haciendo es para ustedes, para las generaciones del futuro. Porque yo quiero que Brownsville sea una comunidad donde los jóvenes se quieren quedar. Y escucho tanto, o escuchaba tanto, ahorita no tanto como antes, pero escucho tanto los jóvenes que decían, no hay nada en Brownsville. Me quiero ir de Brownsville porque quiero vivir en San Antonio, quiero vivir en Austin. Pues aplauso porque yo también en un tiempo quería vivir en San Antonio y en Austin. Pero mi trabajo es que los jóvenes se queden, ¿verdad? Y hay varias cosas, varias oportunidades y es responsabilidad de nosotros para hacer que crezca la ciudad en una manera donde los jóvenes tienen oportunidades y tienen los trabajos que quieren. Es una de las razones porque estamos tratando de invertir tanto en tecnología y vemos que el futuro es algo digital. Entonces estamos invirtiendo mucho tiempo, energía, dinero en tener eso para los jóvenes y también para todos que viven en Brownsville. Pero me siento cómodo en decir que los próximos 3 años o 3 años y medio voy a trabajar para ustedes, para que Brownsville sea la comunidad que quieren ustedes, porque entiendo más qué es lo que quieren, porque yo estoy ahí más o menos también. No 29, pero un poquito más. Cada día más. Pero es una comunidad donde yo me quedé y yo regresé a Brownsville porque sabía que podíamos ser como las otras comunidades. Nos va a tomar un poquito más tiempo, pero tenemos todo lo que tienen las otras ciudades. Es cosa nada más de poner el tiempo y el trabajo para hacerlo.
Muchas gracias. I'd like to open up to the floor of any questions that our audience might have. Now's the time you have access to the city manager and to Mayor Mendez. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Commissioner Golansky for coming and showing her support for this important luncheon to really invite the community and the media and tell them, hey, we're here and we really want to tell our story, and we're also here when we need to talk about real issues. So it's not only rainbows and butterflies, although we're here for that, yes. But we also want to talk about issues. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Thank you for having this.
Sure.
My name is Rose Timmer. I think you all know me, from Healthy Communities of Brownsville. It's a nonprofit that we run here in Brownsville. And I think you said 29 was the medium age for the person,
The average
29
age,
to 34, yes. And educated and leaves the city. But I'd like to know, as an old person, as a 67-year-old person, I know we do not have internet. We're the most unhooked or unconnected people in the United States. We don't read a lot. We don't, we're very inclusive with our families and don't get out and do a lot of things. But what are you doing for the old people, for people like myself, my 78-year-old husband, and my 67 person? It's very refreshing to see all these young faces here. I know you all are very progressive. You're using all the right words. You're doing all the right things. Brownsville's moving. But don't forget that you have a historic and very solid old background brought on the shoulders of people like myself, people who had worked for the city for a long time. And that's not to say that it was right or wrong, but it's just there. And it's not something that we should forget and worry so much about young people. The old people, and that's what we are, have a lot to contribute to your dynamics, to your vision. And I wonder if you're tapping into that. Even if it's once a year, do something for old folks, if you're doing that.
Want to take a picture?
I kind of feel like I'm in your group, Rose, because when I was 25, I got an AARP card in the mail, and I was like, "Is this supposed to be for me?" I don't know. why, but I did, literally. Definitely the focus is not just on the youth. We've, like Noel was talking about earlier, and I'll refer to a book, I think it's from the 60s. Jane Jacobs wrote a book called The Death and Life of Great American Cities. And that talked about the walkability and the functionality of cities and how you plan them. So I think we're realizing that walkability is a big issue. You've done a great job on raising awareness on a lot of the subjects that affect not just seniors, but everybody in our community. And as you know, or you may not know, but there's been a lot of initiatives at the university, research on trying to figure out diabetes and other issues such as obesity that affect our community. And you've seen that the diabetes rates have gone down for the first time here recently. So there's a lot of focus on health and wellness. Commissioner Gowan's doing a great job, doing that, and I know you've done your part on that. But I think that more than anything, it is about health and wellness. It's about walkability. It's about making sure that we have something for everybody when it comes to culture and arts and that sort of thing. But it's also about having access to healthcare, and I'm working on making sure we have better access to healthcare and better quality healthcare. I had, maybe about 5-6 months ago, I put a social media post out there that I had met with another hospital up the valley about opportunities for them here because they were interested in doing something in Brownsville. And I caught some flack from the other two hospitals wondering, hey, what are you doing? And I said, look, I have two goals. One, I need more investment from hospitals. And two, I need better quality health care. And I don't care who does it. If you're not going to do it, then I'm going to be open to talking to whoever it is that wants to come and do that. So that is something that is at the top of my list as far as what we provide our community, and that's better quality health care, better quality options, more surgical options, all sorts of things. Whether that comes through a third-party hospital that's not here or the two existing ones, I'll be happy as long as it comes. But that is something that's definitely something that I'm focused on as well.
Mr. Berlin?
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate your comment because, I mean, that's the way of keeping it at the forefront of, hey, don't forget about us, right? The two largest demographic groups that exist today, FYI, are the boomers and the millennials. Generation X took a break from populating. And so the balance is that communities right now need to look at the needs of both. And for us, I think we're using the term inclusive. And I recall when I did my one-year update, you brought up the same point. And specifically, what are we not doing? I think that a lot of what we've done that I've seen that's been going on in the community has been done with the general population in mind. Can we do more that specifically benefits the senior community? The answer is certainly always going to be, to me, a yes, because the thing is that those two populations are going to be front and center. And in our generation, for example, it's called the sandwich generation for a reason, because you have the millennials taking care of aging parents, and you have parents letting kids stay older into their 30s because of the high cost of living, the student debt. So I think that when you look at millennials, you can't separate the parent too far and vice versa, because there is an issue there and there's a connection there. So I think for us, it's a question of balance. And I think it's inventorying and looking at our programming, looking at our facilities. So I think you talked about a housing, a place for seniors to come in and exercise and do more things. I'll tell you that we didn't have a comprehensive facilities assessment of what we even have and what we really use them for. So one of the things that I've been looking at is, as we get this done in internal services, speaking of facilities, they're going to take that lead and looking at all that we have. This year, we're focusing on investing on deferred maintenance. Let's take care of our facilities. Let's make sure that they're functional and not having leaky roofs and stuff like that. We're now going to look at space sufficiency or our space needs. Do we have too many buildings in our portfolio of facilities, or how do we maximize and activate some of the facilities that we have? I think that the the senior reference that you're making, there's an opportunity that within the facilities that we have, that perhaps through parks, for example, we can increase programming offerings for the senior community, so that you all have knowledge, experience, careers, a whole bunch of things that you can offer, and we don't want to, we need to make that a part of what we do as a city.
We'll take 2 more questions. Yes, sir?
What is the status of extending Wi-Fi or broadband to the extremities of the city? I noticed yesterday, McAllen Library was advertising that you could check out a hotspot to take home for, if you wanted to be online for children doing homework. So I want to ask, what's the status of Brownsville having Wi-Fi citywide or broadband or even hotspots in the Brownsville Library?
Well, Jim, I don't know if you listened to the State of the City address, but I did cover the topic of the digital divide, and Ms. Timmer alluded to that earlier as far as connectivity. We are one of the least connected communities in the U.S., and we've over the last 3 or 4 months, we've been working on gathering support from other entities, public entities locally, on creating a plan on really putting an end to the digital divide. So what we're going to do is we're part of that plan requires figuring out what it is that we have. What is our digital inventory now? What is the connectivity now? And what do we have access to? Where is the fiber now through the university, through hospitals, through the college? What's there? And what do we need? And how are we going to do it? And how much is it going to cost? So that plan, I think we've got the support of just about every entity except the Port of Brownsville. But other than that, the next phase is going to be hiring a firm, putting that plan together, figuring out what it's going to cost. We're already working with Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas on looking at options on funding, how we'd fund it. We don't know how much it's going to cost yet, but we're at least getting out ahead of trying to figure out how we're going to fund it, trying to be creative as to where we would lay the infrastructure, where we would lay the fiber. I think there's opportunities to possibly lay some of that fiber in some of the hike and bike trails that we're going to be building. So I think that kind of makes it a little bit more efficient and possibly save some costs if that's possible. But we are working on it. I think the first step in bridging this digital divide is realizing that there's a problem. We've done that. The second is putting together a plan. We're working on that. And the third part is going to be investing the money in the infrastructure, and we'll get to that hopefully within this next year.
One last question in the back, sir.
Steve Perez, I'm a local entrepreneur. On expanding frontiers, which fits under the new space and BTX future, we should be looking at autonomous drones, big size autonomous drones that are out there in the global trade. And we should be one of the leaders to start looking at how we do this in the border. So does that fit in the new space?
We're having
I
trouble
don't know.
hearing you. You can
Do autonomous
speak.
vehicles.
Is that better?
Fit into new space.
Autonomous
Is that better?
vehicles?
Yes.
Should I repeat the question?
Yes. Can you
Okay.
repeat the question?
On expanding frontiers, which falls under new space,
Right.
okay? Under new space, can Brownsville look into the autonomous drones that are in the global trade arena? They're getting bigger. They're getting a lot bigger. And this could be something that we could be looking into the future, which fits into the BTX future
Yes.
for our global trade.
Yes, I'll expand on that. So in the back card, you see that the culture, that the mission is being a model of innovation, inclusion, and empowerment. So that innovation is a very broad array of things that could be done under the banner of innovation. So as an organization, enterprise applications was shifted from what was traditionally considered more of a break-fix concept to one of actually anticipating and planning for the use of the new technologies as an application. Drones and autonomous vehicles and all those things. I think for us, it's even having the discussion and it even being on our radar is a start. It's difficult to amend your ordinances and your thoroughfare plans, your transportation network and standards. For example, going back to fiber, were we laying extra conduit when we've been building some of these major corridors to run fiber? Many cities that have fiber implemented, they didn't have the money for fiber. Fiber is the most expensive part, but they laid in the conduit, and then the fiber came in after, but they already had the conduit there. They had the vision, in other words. autonomous vehicles, to your point, we're envisioning these things that we need to be doing that are future-oriented so that we don't get blindsided and upended or we're caught. For example, we're also looking at our taxi cab ordinance right now, and that's going to be modified here in April-ish because we don't exclude it, but we don't explicitly accommodate ride sharing. Our airport's going to come in, and if we're limited, Harlingen just came out in the paper recently, the mayor sent me the article where Uber and Lyft are now going to be embraced there, whereas before they were using the traditional model of only taxi cabs. That's changed. That ship already sailed. So if your ordinance and if your community isn't embracing ride sharing, you're getting left behind. You're not leveraging that innovation that's now out in the market. Autonomous vehicles is the same thing. But I think it starts with a recognition that it's out there. When is it going to affect us? How can we pre-plan and how can we incorporate that into some of our visioning so that we can maximize opportunities for autonomous vehicles to solve issues for us? I'll tell you that the prior community where I came from, they were also planning for autonomous vehicles, but for them it was much more of a reality than it was for us here. Frisco, for example, they already have Uber's helicopters that they're using for transportation. That market is a lot more ready for that. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be preparing for it. So yes, that's a long
We can
answer.
also continue the conversation. That's the whole purpose of BTX Future. It's really, thinking outside the box, of keeping the conversation of innovation going. And BTX Future this is for the community. This is for the media to stay up to date on not only what we're doing now, but what we're doing in the future, and also keep the conversation and discussion going on what discussions we need to have as we move towards the future. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. We're going to wrap this up because I know you got to go back to work and 1 hour and a half lunch. I'm gonna don't take it off my check, please. But thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
A round of applause for Mayor Mendez and the city manager, Mr. Bernal. And we'll look forward to seeing you at our next media conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you.